Champions Mojo is part of the CG Sports Network.
Welcome to the award-winning Champions Mojo, hosted by two world record-holding athletes and health, life, and leadership coaches. Be inspired as you listen to Conversations with Champions. And now, your hosts, Kelly Pallas and Maria Parker.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo podcast. And there she is, my co-host, Maria Parker. Hey, Maria.
Hi, sweetie. It's so great to see you.
Great to see you. So, Maria, are you feeling confident?
I am. I'm feeling great today. Are you?
Yes, I think, because I work on confidence and, confidence, when we went into recording the show, we kind of said, is this too lightweight for our listeners? And then, we decided it's really never a lightweight issue to have confidence, because there are going to be times, that you can use confidence no matter how confident one thinks they are. And then they say, 80% of people do not feel confident. They have self-esteem issues. So we're going to talk about 7 ways to boost your confidence for happiness and fulfillment. And according to Psychology Today, self-confidence is linked to almost every element involved in a happy, fulfilling life, including less fear and anxiety, which I know I can use, greater motivation, more resilience, improved relationships, and living a more authentic life.
That's right, Kelly. I'm looking forward to this subject because who wouldn't want to have a happier, more fulfilling life? Understanding the benefits you just mentioned is an important first step toward living your best life with confidence. So let's dive in to the 7 ways we can boost our confidence and reap the rewards of being more confident.
Let's do it, Maria. And so I had a chapter in my book called Take Your Mark, Lead. There's a chapter in there called The Confidence Carrier.
That's
So
a great one.
We're going to hit some of those, and you may bring up some things that aren't in the book, but I think the very first one that I titled Just Jump, and that is just another way of saying take action. So they say that confidence can come from the smallest action of simply making your bed in the morning, or checking off your to-do list gives you confidence. Do exercise gives you confidence. So the term just jump, it's just another way of saying take some action towards your goal, even if you fall short, but that making that move, like just action, moving towards something gives us confidence.
Yeah, I love that, Kelly. That's so true. And I would add even to that doing something that, when you're afraid, a little nervous, that's a great sign. I always, like, if I feel a little nervous about something, I think, I need to do that. I need to act in that way, because I know when I do something that I'm a little bit afraid of, or that I'm, got some anxiety about, that I'm going to feel really good when it's done. So I love the bias towards action. Really good to move. At least for me, I find that, after, moving helps me feel good and powerful and confident. And so the second one, which is number 2, believe in yourself. So you can, I think, you can speak words like you would to your best friend. And when I'm coaching, I talk to people about this all the time. Sometimes our interior dialogue is just really horrible. If you stop and listen to what you say to yourself about yourself, you would never speak that way to somebody that you admired or loved or liked even. So often in coaching, I would say, would you say that to your daughter? Would you say that to your friend? And so helping people stop. And I have to do this with myself too. It's like, okay, what words are you saying to yourself? And really the negative stuff is often just lies, or, it's one of the distortions. And so just thinking about yourself and saying, what are you saying to yourself and is that true? We can talk about that, but saying things that are true and that are positive, and treating yourself as if you are lovable, whether you believe you can or you can't. That's what Henry Ford said. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
It's so true. And, that one, when I put it in the book, I was like, there's no source for this, but we can't hear that enough, that you've got to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then nobody else is going to believe in you. So pretend that you are that coach. Sometimes when that one person puts their arm around you and says, I believe in you, it just changes your world. You can really think about, that I was, Mark and I were taking a walk yesterday, and he said, when did you know you were a really good swimmer? And I said, gosh, I think it was when I was 8 years old, and Tok Kurosaka was my coach at the YMCA in Alexandria, Virginia. And he was an older coach. He was probably ready to retire. He was in his 60s or 70s. And he was just the sweetest, gentlest man with a very gentle voice. And he called me Carrie instead of Kelly, but that's just the way he pronounced my name. And it was so sweet. He said, Carrie, you are a great swimmer. You are going to be a great swimmer. And I remember just as a little 8-year-old, how that I think I went home from practice that day and thought, okay, I'm going to the Olympics. But if we could say those things to ourselves and really buy into it, because, hey, it was just someone else saying it to me, but we can say those things to ourselves, and we can certainly say them to other people. Just, this is to boost our confidence, but wouldn't it be nice to help someone else?
Well, and certainly the things that we say to others will boost their confidence, and boosting others' confidence is great for your own self-esteem. And Kelly, I would just ask you a question. When you're, as you're still swimming, so you're obviously not doing the times that you were when you were 19. Do you ever have negative thoughts, and if you do, how do you stop them and turn them around to believe in yourself?
Oh yeah, I have negative thoughts. It's kind of like, when you're an adult athlete, I'm sure you can relate to this, and I'm sure our listeners can relate to this. When you're an adult athlete, you just never have the training time that you want or you think you need, because you've got a full life. You're an adult, you've got a job and a family and things. And so you just never, when you step up to that starting line, it's always like, oh, I could have prepared so much better. And so that's a doubtful voice. That's a voice saying, I'm not in shape. I'm going to die on the second half of this race. So what I do is I just shoo that bad thought out. I put the stop sign up, which we've talked about. And
right.
I put the stop sign up and I'm like, stop, let's just take it 150 at a time, 100 at a time. Okay. I'm at the 600 and I'm not dying, I just say, get out of you taught me this, Maria, the harbor master.
Yes.
We are the harbor master of our mind. And I love that term that you taught me, which is just when those little bad boats sail into the harbor, I just get out of here. And then I try to think of something. All right, I've been working on my stroke, or I've been working on my turns, or something else. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Everybody succumbs to negative thoughts. And I think the first thing is just exactly what we've been talking about, is catch those negative thoughts. Sometimes we can just agree with them. Yeah, I'm not ready for this. I'm old. I'm whatever it is. For me, I mean, I have one of my biggest challenges is always being loving and kind with my husband, with Jim. And, even when I get annoyed,
my brother,
with your brother.
I love,
and so even when I get annoyed and irritated, I can tell myself, oh, you're failing at that or whatever. But then I can tell, which is true to a degree, but then I can tell myself a truth, which is that, I'm aware of that, and I can, and I'm changing and I'm growing. And so we look for the negative thoughts, which I like to think of as lies. And then we look for beautiful truth, which is, I'm in it, I'm aware of this, and I'm going to do better next time. And so I think, it's the main thing is to catch it and keep it out of the harbor if possible. And then the second thing is to call it what it is, which is a lie. And then the third thing is to tell yourself a truth that is true and beautiful.
Yes, I love that. To catch it, catching those little things that erode our confidence is a great one.
Right.
Okay. So number 3, and this is something that is, when we went down our list together before the show, we were both like, this one isn't out in the commonplace as much, but
Right.
posing confidently. So posing confidently, all the research, there's tons of research. Again, this is in my book, and there are like 5 reference articles. If you look in my book, you want the research on pose confidently, it's in the bibliography in the back. But it shows that if you're going into a job interview, or you're behind the blocks of a swim meet, or you're on the race line of a 5K or a bike race, that if you straighten your spine, put your arms in the air, that you really like throw your head back and you act confidently. If you're, going out to meet people, throw your shoulders back, walk confidently. They even show that people who are walking down the street and a criminal is in the shadows targeting you, that they will target people who are not walking confidently versus someone who is walking confidently. So posing confidently is just a natural, like it's an easy, natural way to boost your confidence.
Yeah. I think the most important aspect of that is the one you mentioned, which is just straightening your spine. And I think I've told the story on the podcast before, but it just made such a huge impression on me when my second daughter was going for a really important interview for a college scholarship. And it was a big deal. I mean, she'd made it up through all the levels, and this was the final level. And it was going to be a full scholarship, so it was worth a lot of money. And I had to drive her about 2 hours, and we talked about it. And she was really, really nervous. And I was just listening mostly, but then we pulled up and I dropped her off, and she got out of the car, and she literally put her shoulders back, put her head up, put her chin up, and walked in there like the queen. I mean, she was just, I couldn't believe that was the same person who was just, mulling over all of her fears and worries and anxieties in the car. And, of course, she had an incredible interview and she won the scholarship. So, I mean, just that she knew how, even at that young age, to fake it till she made it, to put on that confidence. And even before these podcasts, we throw our arms in the air and we, that's been shown, of course, to help you and open up your chest and help you feel happy. But I always think to myself, straighten your spine, Maria, put your shoulders back, because that makes me feel good. And it helps the confidence. I guess the confidence just flows right up your spine to your head.
Yes. And I know different swimmers. I know Mark always emulates Nathan Adrian, who we've had on the show. And
yes,
Nathan puts his hands on his hips and opens up his chest, probably helps his breathing.
Yeah.
But Mark he calls it the Nathan Adrian posture before he swims, and it really helps him. So what's number 4, Maria?
Celebrate. I just love this one. We've talked about it off and on. I don't think it's something, in fact, when I gave a speech a couple of weeks ago, this was something that I talked about in the speech. And this is always one that surprises people. Like, my speech was about getting through tough things, but one of the things that you have to do is celebrate. And lots of times we think about celebrating big things like graduation or whatever, but you have to celebrate tiny successes. And this really boosts your confidence because it reminds you of how far you've come. For some people, especially people in a really difficult time, just getting out of bed is really tough. So if that's the case for you and you get out of bed, you need to take a moment and say, today I got out of bed. Yay. And so celebrating your successes is so important. I remember I had I was a TA when I was getting my master's degree, and the professor I was working for, she was an incredibly hardworking woman, and she had done so much to the program. She got us accredited, and she had 2 kids at home, and she was just, but there was always so much more to do, of course. And I remember, just saying, you've got to stop and look back at what you've done. And we just went over the list of the things that she had accomplished in that 6 months that I'd worked with her. And I knew, because I was the little peon on the side, sort of helping submit the paperwork. But I just listed them for her. And she's like, this is the most valuable exercise I've done. She said, I forget. And this is very true for ambitious people. We are always looking forward. We're always looking at the next goal, but we have to celebrate. And the harder the thing we're doing, the more frequently we need to stop and celebrate small successes.
Yes, that's so true and so beautiful. And just, we do think it's just Christmases or birthdays or big things, big graduations,
Right.
but
The end.
we need to celebrate those little ones, which really ties into what you and I love to call the pile,
Yes.
which is number 5. And that is practice or prepare, whatever, if you call what you do to get ready to succeed practice, then it's practice. If you are a trial lawyer, you may prepare and do, you a really good job. But when we go into something and we know this, my favorite word for being prepared or being practiced comes from being ready. So when you can say the words going into anything. So when your daughter went into her interview, she was prepared. She was really prepared. So she could say, I'm ready. When you stand on the line of your bike race in February, I know you're going to do a big bike race in February, that you can say, I'm ready. And when you can't say I'm ready, I went back through my log, and I went to nationals this summer, and I wanted to say I'm ready when I got there, but I couldn't. I just didn't. I never got to the point where I said I was ready. So I wasn't that confident. And so by practicing and preparing, if you can stand up before whatever you're going to do and say, I'm ready, then that gives you confidence. And the unfortunate inverse of that is if you're not ready, you're not going to have as much confidence. So in order to preclude not feeling ready and not feeling confident, it's not fun, but we've got to practice and we've got to prepare.
Yeah, that's really so true. I was giving a talk and I had some anxiety about it, but I spent the time I needed to write what I thought was a very good talk. And then I went through and practiced it enough times. And so somebody was asking me, and I did this weeks before, and somebody was asking me, are you nervous? And I'm like, yeah. Maybe a little, but I put it out of my mind because I've done all the preparation I can. And, so I went into it, feeling confident. But I would also say that another aspect of this is, again, it's kind of gets back to the believing in yourself, is when you're not ready, you can also remind yourself of all the times that you came to something not ready and you still did well. And so I would say, sometimes we get to the starting line and we're just, for whatever, like you said, as adult athletes, as we have a big life and we're busy and think there's, but how many times have I come to a starting line, not really ready, but I've done okay. So in that believing in yourself and keeping, the good thoughts, you can say, all right, I might not be ready for my, A performance, but I've come to the starting line so many times, not really ready, and I've still done fine. And that is what kind of Lewis Pugh calls stacking. Remember when we had Lewis Pugh on the show? He said, when you come to the starting line, you remember, I did this, and then I've done that, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. So you think about the things that you have done in order to feel confident as you begin.
Maria, that's a great point. And again, you're the master of being the harbor master, and you've helped me. You've been my harbor master. So that's perfect. That's great. So if you can't say I'm ready, you can replace it with something nice, but it does help your confidence to say you are ready, but when you're not, just shoo it out of there.
Yeah. And I think that this also helps motivate you to get up and get on your bike or get in the water, because when you show up, I mean, I know you do this, and I visualize the starting lines of my events. Like, I want to be able to say I'm ready. And so, so 7 months before, or 6 weeks before, or 3 weeks before, when it's really hard to do that hard workout, I can say, I don't want that feeling of, of thinking I'm not ready. So I think that it gives you maybe confidence to get on, or maybe at least motivation to get out there and do your preparation. And so number 6 is find a role model. I love this one. And this one, I don't know that you and I have talked about it a lot, but it's such a great confidence booster to remind yourself that somebody else has done it before. And if you can find somebody who's done it before, then, or just somebody you want to be like or emulate, this is such a great tip. And when I was a young mother, I'm having a big party in a couple of days, and I really love hospitality. I love hosting people. That's just one of my delights. And so,
Maria, Maria, I have to stop you here. And you're so good at it. I know, when one is listening to a podcast, Mark and I were just talking the other day about how lucky your grandkids are to live next door to you. And
thank you.
The times that we've come into your house for a family visit, and you're home from the beautiful, holiday, whatever holiday it is, wreath on the front door. You walk in and literally, like, you knew we were arriving at 5:00. You make a fresh batch of homemade chocolate chip cookies. So Mark asked me the other day, he said, and we come in, there's a smell of cookies. You got a hot pot of, coffee. We're like, just the tree is glowing, that like, oh, welcome. You've got food out on the counter. You're just such an amazing host. And then, our bed linens are perfect and the towels are perfectly folded on the bed. And you are great at that. And Mark asked me the other day, do you think Maria still makes those chocolate chip cookies since she's keto? But
I tell him I do. In fact, I made a batch for the party that's coming up in a couple of days.
I said, I bet she makes them for those grandkids.
People love those cookies.
Yeah, they're amazing. Anyway, so back to your story.
But to the role model.
You got a party coming up. What's going on?
But I think when you do hospice, some people are very good at it. I like it. I might be good at it, but I always have anxiety a little bit about it. I want people to feel welcome and comfortable. But to get back to the finding a role model, when Jim was in medical school, we were married and we lived near a wealthy woman, but her and she was lovely, but her daughter, his name was Edith, and Edith was a whole generation older than we were. She was Jim's friend's mom. And she was the most gracious hostess I have ever known. She just made you feel like you were so welcome. And it wasn't just good food. It was, I really like you and I'm comfortable. I want you. And I remember one time we went to her house and we were going to go from there to someplace else. And she's my mother. She was my mother's age. At that time, she's probably in her 60s. There wasn't quite enough room. We all want to travel in the same car. So she just jumps in the back under the hatchback, and she's wearing clothes that are appropriate for that. She dressed beautifully, but she was always, whatever you were wearing was perfect because she was wearing something just a tiny bit more casual. Anyway, and she did 100 things like that. I can't tell you. And I thought someday I want to be like Edith Camp. She, and so I'm sure I'm still not as good as a hostess as she was, but her way, it wasn't just the food, or it was just all the details to make you feel like she was so glad that you were in the space with her. So I love that, find a role model, because that's actually informed my whole life, how I live my life as a hostess.
Yes.
I'm sure you have a story too.
I have a role model story that I love from two of our friends, and I'm going to keep them anonymous, but one of my favorite things to find out when I meet or when I talk with couples is their how did you meet story. So I love to know, how do couples that are married, how did you meet? Where did you meet? What happened? So
yeah, that's a great story to tell.
Yeah. So we have some friends that are they've been married for a long time. And I finally got to hear their how they met story. So they're swimmers. They were on the same swim team, and they both kind of had a crush on one another when they were young, like young teenage or older teenagers, but they didn't ever tell each other. So the husband in the story here says that he heard that his wife in the story, before she was his wife, that she was going out on a date with a guy that he couldn't believe that she was going out with. Like, it just, he was not, at all as, something that he thought would be better than he was. So this gave him incredible confidence. So the minute he saw that she went out with this other guy, he said, oh, if she's going out with him, then she can go out with me, which gave him the confidence. That night he called her, he asked her to prom, and they went. And so that was how they met stories. But I just love the fact that he he felt confident to say, hey, if that guy got a yes, then I can get a yes. So
he's a 6 and I'm an 8. So
yeah. So anyway, I love those stories. So whatever anyone is doing, you can look to them and say, hey, a person that age is going this time. So that means somebody can go that time. Or so I think finding a role model is another way to get confidence.
I love it. I think that's a great tip.
Yeah. So my last one, number 7, is just owning it, owning whatever it is that you, and this is, I think, goes back to the first part, which Psychology Today said that you're more authentic when you're confident, and vice versa. So it's kind of which comes first, the chicken or the egg. One of my favorite stories with owning it is Susan Boyle, who won Britain's Got Talent and then went on to, have #1 bestsellers in music. She didn't even show up to sing until she was 47. And Simon Cowell said, why hasn't this worked out for you? And she, if you remember, she says, well, he said, she asked her how old she was, which is just so like such a slap in the face. And she's, she's gray and she's on stage, and she says, I'm 47. And that's just one side of me, she said. And so she was so confident in owning that she was 47. She was confident in owning that it hadn't worked out for her, but that she was optimistic. And so I like it when, people own whatever they are, their uniquenesses, their age, their, whatever might be something different about you. If you own that, it can give you more of a confidence than if you just say, this is unusual and I don't fit in. How about saying, yeah, you know what? This is unusual. I have a different color eyes, or I have, I swim my backstroke with double arms, or, whatever it is that's unique about you. I think if you own it, then it gives you more confidence.
I really like that. I like that. So that makes me think of what knowing who you are. I can't remember where it came from, but at some point during my parenting, my kids, when they were young, I learned this phrase, remember who you are, as a way to remind the children to behave in such a way that was true to who they were. And I guess that would be who I wanted them to be, or who but what I was meaning by that was, saying, you're confident, you come from this great family, you're loved. And so I think for me, owning it means remembering who I am. And for me, from most people know my spiritual connections, like I know who I am in this universe. I know who I'm loved by. I know who, what I'm supposed to be doing. And that gives me utter confidence when I can remember who I am. I can own who I am.
That's beautiful, Maria. And that, is that what you go to? Like, can you think of any specific example where you went into something without a lot of confidence and that gave you confidence?
Yeah. For instance, if I'm going into something where I maybe I feel inferior, or I mean, sometimes this actually generally, it happens sometimes in athletic situations, sometimes in social situations, sometimes in professional situations where I'm going into something and I'm thinking, and I'm feeling a little bit of an imposter. It's like, I'm supposed to be this thing and I'm not, or maybe people think I'm an expert at something, and so when that happens, and I'll give a couple examples. One is like, when I was giving the speech, is like, I got my confidence shaken up a little bit because somebody who is affiliated with the organization called me and said, these people who are at your speech, they're very professional and they're very engaged, and they don't, basically don't screw this up. That's what I heard. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then I had to just remind myself, no, wait a minute. it doesn't matter if I screw this up because I'm a child of God and I am here to encourage people. And if whatever I'm about to say doesn't encourage them or doesn't, it falls flat, well, I was out there doing the best I could and it's not going to impact who I am after it. And sometimes, the same things, starting at the starting line of a race, it's like I can feel, oh, there's all these expectations of me. And, but then that doesn't really matter. At the end of this race, I'm still going to be who I am and I'm going to remember who I am. Does that help?
I love
Does that illustrate
yeah,
that?
that's beautiful. That's
what about
beautiful.
you, Kat? I'm sure you have one.
Oh, I have tons. I mean, I think, when I started to really finish the book, it's like, who am I to write a book? It's just like, and I just said, there's been many books written on this subject. Why am I any different? And then I just kind of got rid of those voices. And I thought, if no one buys this book, then I need to write it because maybe it'll help one person. I just thought, if it just helps one person, but there were a lot of doubts, when you sit down to write a book,
right.
There are just a lot of doubts and almost anything, that takes a big effort. I think we're going to have that resistance of, who am I to do this? I think that a lot. In fact, who did I just, you and I both get coached and I said, who am I to step up and say something about this? And, I think it's just, if you just affect one person in a positive way and you're not hurting anyone, I mean, that's the main thing. So yeah, I have it all the time. And it's more of a, let's focus on the glass being half full and what the good will come out of it. And, I have a little sticker on, I don't have the book right in front of me, but I have a little sticker called Faith Over Fear.
Yeah.
And it's just thinking that whatever your endeavor is, that you're going to have faith that it's going to turn out better than it's going to turn out, something that's going to make you scared.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's such risk in putting yourself out there. I mean, when we stand up in front of people and talk, or if we write a book, or even doing this podcast, it's like you say, there's a degree where we can both say, we don't know anything about this stuff.
Right.
And so, but then we have to remind ourselves, well, wait, it doesn't, I'm putting myself out there so that I can help others. This isn't about self-aggrandizement for Kelly Pallas or Maria Parker. This is about trying to encourage people. And that's, and we do that because of, of who we are.
Yeah. I mean, and I think what keeps me going forward is it doesn't, you don't have to be a huge celebrity. The people that have often inspired me the most don't have a podcast, don't have a book. They're just they're just living their lives in, a very quiet way. And they're so inspiring. So I wish more of those people would do podcasts, but maybe that's our niche.
Oh, I have another little story about that. A friend, very, very, doesn't like to be out in front of people at all. And she hated going to parties. And this is when we were in the military, and there's always hail and farewell, all these huge parties she had to go to. And she would tell me, I just hate doing, she hated dressing up. She said, I just remind myself that there's probably one person there that needs me to listen to them. I just think that is so beautiful. And that's an example of, like, you don't have to be standing in front of somebody to use this confidence to own that you're supposed to be there for someone.
Yes. Yes. I love it. So maybe there's one person out there that needs to hear what we're saying.
Right.
It's now time for the takeaways. Maria, you and I have heard the takeaways are the best part of the show.
That's right, Kelly, because the takeaways are curated information, which is what we give to our clients when we coach them.
If you would like to take your performance to the next level in health, life, or leadership, go to our website and schedule your free 30-minute consultation.
Yes, just click on our coaching page and book there. We're looking forward to bringing out the champion in you.
And now, the takeaways. All right, Maria, what is your one thing you're going to take out of this today?
Oh my goodness. I love the find a role model. I think I'm going to find other role models for different areas of my life other than, just hospitality. So I'm going to work on finding a role model for maybe my professional life and maybe sort of a new role model for my athletic life, which is changing. So Finding role models is one. What about you?
Good. I think I really, as hard as it is, I gotta own being 60. It's like, I even debate whether to say that age on the podcast, because I'm afraid that some of our younger listeners will just tune out and say, oh, they're just too old, or, she's too old. And I know you're not 60 yet, but you're getting close. You're
2
inching
years,
up there.
a year and I'm turning 59 in February. So
yeah,
I'm
a year
right
and
behind
1
you.
month.
Right.
Yeah. So, there's ageism out there. There's sexism.
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
every kind of ism. So
Mhm.
I have to own being 60.
Mm.
And, one of the ways that I want to own it is just continuing to put my age out there, to just do things that, who is the model that was on Sports Illustrated's cover? Paulina Poroshkovich. She's just like, she was married to the Cars leader. She's one of the few, and it's not just about beauty or what we look like, but just continuing to be productive. But she's taking a stand saying she's going to be one of the few people that you see in Hollywood that doesn't do, plastic surgery, that doesn't, that shows people what it looks like to age as a woman. And she said that in Hollywood, you basically go from being a 35-year-old to being Betty White. There's nobody in between. And I love that she's owning her age. So I kind of want to own it from an athletic perspective, from a podcasting perspective, from a production perspective, of writing books, and saying, that it's just, it's not over. I'm not trying to sit in a rocking chair at 60, but I know when I was 30, 40, I thought 60 was like, get out of here. You're 60. I don't want to hear what you have to say. And that's what I got to do. And it's not easy.
Yeah. That's
Coach me on that, Maria. Coach
inspiring.
me.
It's inspiring to hear. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a very difficult society that we live in. And a lot of people, value smooth skin and youthful appearance. There's a good evolutionary reason for that, because once you're beyond your, and I think about this all the time, sometimes I talk about it with Jim, it's like, once you're beyond your childbearing years as a woman, from an evolutionary perspective, you don't have, your use is basically in encouraging the younger women or younger people, other people. But there's less, value. Of course, that's not true. Of course, we have great value, but I think our society puts so much effort or so much weight on how you look. And I think we do have to fight against that. I'm glad you're owning it, because I think we have to talk about that, because it's impossible. It's an impossible standard, and we have, even, you and I, we use filters on our Zoom.
Right. Yeah. Without the Zoom filter.
Yeah.
Let's turn them off. I'm going to turn mine off.
Go ahead.
Let's see. I don't know if I can do it. What do I really look like on Zoom? This will be the one video that goes viral. Let's see here. Here we go. Video settings. Touch up my appearance. Okay, there it is. It's the ugly truth.
And I think I've just done
Can
mine
you see
too.
it? I don't know.
Yeah, you don't look any different.
Really?
I just untouched my appearance too. My point is,
okay, there it is.
It's
I don't think we look very much different.
Yeah, but you and I talked about this. I color my hair and I do other stuff to look younger, and I think that's part actually makes me feel confident. So I'm not sure that that's a negative thing, but yeah, owning it with age it's a complicated thing, and I think you just have to be true to who you are, and what you're comfortable with, and not do things out of fear. I think if you're doing something because you're afraid, that's sort of a sign. Stop.
Right.
So,
well, I think what I'd like to be is a role model, because I promise you, and this is because I believe in exercise and physical activity and all the things that we do, from meditation to positive self-talk and affirmations, and the things that keep one young. You and I do those things, and the fact that you're going to go out and do a 24-hour, are you doing the 12 or 24-hour bike race?
12.
Okay,
12.
so the 12-hour bike race. So is that I truly feel no different than I did when I was 25. That's the conundrum, that I don't feel any different. And I certainly physically, I mean, still, 10 100s on 115, or when I walk or when I lift or, my putting on a pair of jeans, all those things that I don't physically feel any different. I certainly look different when I look in the mirror. I'm certainly not swimming as fast, but I don't feel any different. And here's the great news, if you're looking at aging, is that mentally, oh my gosh, I feel a million times better because I'm more confident in knowing what I want. I'm more authentic with who I am. And that's what being older gives you, is that this is who I am. These are the things that are important to me. These are the people that are important to me. There's no more BS. You don't have to prove to some, high school football player that you're this or that, so I really think that it's the best way to get to an older age. And so maybe we can be role models for thinking, hey, life doesn't stop when you turn 60. It can just get started, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways I'm better than I've ever been. Well, certainly when I was 24, I was just a sort of a soft blobby from an athletic perspective.
That was a pre-Boston Marathon qualifier.
That was pre turning in, and discovering athletics. But also, as you said, I mean, I wouldn't go back to any age. I love how I feel now. I wouldn't, and I think that's one thing that's sort of encouraging about aging, is that your body does let you down sometimes, like, oh, that, it's not doing what I wish it would, but I love what I know. You learn, and it's so great to be here and not back when I was 24 or 34 or 44 or even 54. I really like knowing what I know. And, I think life just gets better, but also I am challenging myself to learn new things. And there are some things that I'm learning that I've never been able to do before. So that's always possible too. You can never stop growing. And my dad is a great example of that. I was just talking to him the other day, and he is further advanced in terms of technology than I am. He was telling me how he set up his whole house for voice recognition. And he's always, he's always thinking that that he's going to die and leave my mom, which is probably not going to happen. But, so he's got the remote set up, so she just has to talk to it. And there's shopping lists that automatic, and he just is way ahead of me. And he's always studying, and he gets out there. He's 91. He walks at least a couple of miles a day. And he just told me his strength training routine, which I didn't know. Apparently he's been doing it for years, but he does sit-ups and push-ups, and, it's just, he's such an inspiration to me. And seems happier and calmer than maybe I've ever known him to be. So there's that to look forward to.
And it beats the alternative. So
that's right. Exactly.
All right, Maria, another great one.
Yeah. All right.
Great spending time with you. Love you.
I love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Champions Mojo podcast with host Kelly Palace and Maria Parker. Champions Mojo is produced by Cabra Media, and a new episode debuts every Tuesday. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. Follow Champions Mojo on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook @Champions Mojo.